everybody this morning? Excellent. Yeah. All right. So we're about ready to call this meeting to order. We have Member Vasquez, who is going to present a great hearing today, workshop on assessment appeals boards and all the reforms, and great opportunity for us to listen in terms of how we can hopefully make this a better working opportunity throughout the state with regards to assessment appeal boards. And on that note, why don't we go ahead and do the roll call if we could, and then we'll proceed with Member Vasquez and his agenda for today's meeting.
Good morning. Chairman Gaines.
Here.
Vice Chair Leeper.
Here.
Member Vasquez.
Present.
Member Schaefer.
Present.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Present.
A quorum is present. And if I may, I will start with our safety and informational announcement. Welcome to the May Lee State Office Complex. In the auditorium, the exits are in the front on each side of the stage, and other exits are at the rear. Please take a moment to find the exit and location nearest to you in an emergency. I would like to remind the audience to silence their cell phones and other wireless devices. This meeting will be live streamed to the public and posted on the BOE website. Therefore, we ask all speakers in the auditorium, on the AT&T phone line, or on a teleconference to state their names before speaking for the record. We ask that you speak clearly and slowly. Note that the public comments are taken on each agenda item. The public will be invited to comment on the matters before the board. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the board on any agenda item in person, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant at Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice and follow the instructions of the AT&T monitor. When giving public comments, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. This concludes the safety and informational announcements. Thank you.
Good morning, folks. Good morning. Just a quick house rule here. I don't know who controls the air up here, but we're under these heat lamps here, and I don't know about you, but it feels a little warm in here. But so if they could adjust that, that'd be great.
Thank you. We'll work on that.
Thank you. With that, good morning and welcome to the second meeting, 2025 Assessors and Assessment Appeals Board Issues and Work Group. Thank you to my colleagues, to the honorable speakers we'll have from the county assessors today. Join us, county clerks, assessment appeal boards, the lawyers, the officers, members of the California Association of Taxpayers Advocates for your presence and your participation today. On April 30th, 2025, the board held the first meeting of the 2025 Assessor and AAB Issues Board Work Group, where participants provided significant testimony and recommendations on issues creating administrative burdens or delays for assessors, assessment appeals boards, and taxpayers. My office issued a report summarizing the testimony and provided a list of proposed short-term, mid-term, and long-term solutions. The board agreed to discuss and receive recommendations on the medium-term solutions for best practices. And today at this meeting, the goal of today's meeting is to receive stakeholders' input and recommendations for the actual development. Actual development of both the previously mentioned and newly proposed 4 best practices topics. And before we get into those topics, I didn't realize we needed to do the pledge this morning. Okay, if I can get everybody to stand, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic
Yeah, I want to
Thank you.
apologize, Tony, for not doing that at the beginning of the meeting.
I'm sorry, I thought we took care of the,
Yeah, thank you.
is there any other, are we good?
We are good, thank you.
Okay. With that, let me get back. I was mentioning the goal of today's meetings is to receive stakeholders' input and recommendations for the actual development of both the previously mentioned and newly proposed four best practices topics. And they are, number one, the AAB member recruitment and training. Second, the AAB applications and applicant resources. Third, the AAB scheduling and procedures. And fourth, the AB 1879 implementations, e-signatures, and possible expansions to the AABs. All speakers invited are experts in their fields and will play a vital role here today. We want to hear from the observations and experiences, and most importantly, your recommendations. I'll repeat that, your recommendations on how the board can assist in achieving best practices. Our board clerk will call each of the four agenda items as we proceed and will introduce, and I will introduce each of the speakers. We ask speakers, whether presenting remotely, online, or in person, to be mindful of the recommended time allotments so that we can ensure that everyone will be heard. Board members may ask follow-up questions, and we'll be taking public comments as well. So we anticipate a full day of detailed discussion. Thank you for your cooperation. And now let me just turn to my colleagues to see if anybody has any opening remarks before we get going with the speakers. I'll turn to my colleagues, and it looks like we're all good. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call our first agenda item.
Our first agenda item is best practices, AAB member recruitment and training.
Best practices for the AAB members recruitment training. The topic introduction, item 2 is related to the AAB member recruitment and training. Back in April, we heard testimony that recruitment and training is a persistent issue due to many factors, including variations in county resources, disparities in the availability of pool of qualified and interested AAB candidates, the nature of AAB membership as a part-time position, and the need to increase access to trainings on substantial and procedural issues. In preparing for this meeting, we heard many of the recommendations that we would like you to bring forward for all you to hear. And we also sent everyone a memo with links to the existing BOE guidance and resources on some of these issues, in case you have recommendations for ways to supplement or enhance this guidance. With that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, and that is Thomas Parker, the AAB County Council Assessment and Appeals Board for Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. And I believe he's remote. Is that correct? Okay.
This is Ms. Taylor. Appears they're having some technical difficulties. It'll be just a moment. Mr. Parker, perhaps you'd be able to turn on your camera and unmute yourself? Mr. Parker, I would recommend leaving the Teams environment and rejoining, and perhaps that will fix the technical issue.
Is she on? Maybe while we're waiting, when we go, I think Jennifer Tran is available. If he doesn't come on here, and we can come back to Mr. Parker. Is Jennifer Tran, are you able to log in with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me clearly? Let me
I-
turn on my camera.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Give me a moment so I can share my screen.
Thank you. And Jennifer
Are you
Tran is
able-
also with the LA County Board of Supervisors. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Good morning, honorable members of the board. My name is Jennifer Tran, and on behalf of LA County's Executive Officer of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Edward Yan, thank you once again for this opportunity to share LA County's assessment appeals practices before you. Please note that I will be covering all agenda items during this presentation. In response to Agenda Item 2, in 2021, with the implementation of AAB's virtual hearing platform, LA County was able to increase the number of board hearings from 5 to 8 boards per day. To fill our board member vacancies, LA County published the vacancy announcement on various newspapers and posted on multiple employment websites. The bulletin was also posted on our public website and was distributed to current county employees and with the Employee Retirement Association for potential referrals. Additionally, we also reached out to various local CPA and bar associations, the Appraisal Institute, and licensed real estate brokers and agents. LA County offers a two-part training curriculum for board members. As part of onboarding new board members, we provide an electronic copy of the AAB Board Member Manual, which provides a comprehensive guide on the state and local property tax and assessment appeals rules. The onboarding training also includes job shadowing or observing at hearings before they are scheduled to sit on the panel, and the completion of the required self-study certification. As part of the board members' continuous education, we also offer the mandatory quarterly training led by our county counsel, Mr. Thomas Parker, to provide legal guidance and interpretation, focus training topics on questions or issues encountered at the hearings, as well as various case study review of prior appeals. Additionally, we have invited subject matter experts to provide trainings which include guest speakers from the Appraisal Institute. To promote collaboration and knowledge sharing, we also offer on-the-job training or workshops in which board members share their knowledge and expertise and experience with their peers. To enhance the statewide AAB board member training, we recommend for the BOE to sponsor an annual conference for networking and training purposes, which may include virtual workshops with subject matter experts, AAB members, or county councils from various counties as guest speakers. We also recommend establishing an AAB registry for interested board members who can temporarily assist other counties. It is important to have clear guidelines to establish communication standards between the counties when coordinating the board members' availability. And lastly, participating counties should also provide their specific guidelines on their hearing procedures and other relevant information. With regards to agenda item 3, in addition to community and public outreach, we also conduct a monthly virtual public education seminar with approximately 85 attendees per session. At the seminar, an assessor representative is always available to address any questions from the attendees. And to quickly show our AEB resources page or center, we have this resource center page, which serves as the central repository of various video tutorials, forms, FAQs, reference guides, as you can see here, and also related or links to property tax departments and, of course, the BOE or the State Board of Equalization website. As you can see on the video library shown on the screen, you will find our AEB video tutorials, such as how to file an assessment appeal application online or have an understanding of the assessment appeals process. These video tutorials are accessible via YouTube to help ensure easy and equal access to information. Using the closed caption feature, the user may select the desired language for translation. We also develop tutorials on how to enable closed caption using your PC or laptop or using a mobile device. For the purpose of the quick demo, I'll be selecting the video tutorials on the common types of appeals since it is one of our shortest video tutorial available. So as you could see on the screen, all you need to do is click on the settings, click on subtitles, and then select auto translate. And you could select the desired language that you need language assistance on. So for the purpose of this demo, I will select Spanish. Select that Spanish. Enable the closed caption feature by clicking on the CC link. And then you can play the video and notice the closed caption picture.
There are 4 common types of appeals: decline in value, base year value, calamity reassessment, role changes, or escape assessment. Decline in value appeals. If you believe the market value of your property is lower than the assessed value, you can file a decline in value appeal for the current year. Base year value appeals. Under California property tax law, known as Proposition 13, the assessor must determine the base year value of your property when it is purchased or when it is newly constructed. However, if you don't agree with the reassessed base year value, please contact the assessor to resolve the issue and file an assessment appeals application. Calamity appeals. If a natural disaster or other calamity has damaged your property, the assessor's office will mail you a reassessment notice. If you disagree with the proposed value, you must file your appeal within 6 months of the mailing notice or the postmark date of the notice, whichever is later. Role change or escape assessment appeals. In general, these are assessments for events that happened in prior years but were not discovered timely by the assessor. Role change is the role correction appeals when the assessor has changed the value on a prior year's role. Escape assessment is for appeals on the value for property which the assessor discovered that was underassessed or not assessed on a prior year's role. For instance, a swimming pool was built in September 2010, but the assessor did not assess the value of the pool until September 2012. This is an escape assessment, which will cause a role change to a prior year. For more information, please visit our website, https://bos.lacounty.gov/services/assessment-appeals/.
Okay. One notable impact of these video tutorials is the decreased number of inquiries received telephonically and in person. Additionally, with the language translation capability through the use of closed caption, we noted a dramatic decrease in inquiries received requiring Spanish language assistance on key topics already covered by the available video tutorials. Last year, our resource center received nearly 21,000 visitors. Based on our website analytics, while most of our website visitors came from LA County residents, we also received website hits coming from other counties, including Santa Clara, San Diego, San Francisco, and Ventura counties. Language accessibility. Additionally, our websites offer the language translation tool to help translate the website content. However, please note that this feature does not include translation of PDF forms or documents posted on the website. As shown on the table, last year, there were nearly 53,000 visitors who accessed our AAB websites or web pages. As shown on this table, nearly 3,500 visitors used the translation tool for Spanish language assistance, followed by Chinese translation at nearly 2,900. While our video tutorials are accessible to the public and of course to all counties, the BOE may consider developing video tutorials that are non-county specific. We also recommend a more simplified appeals application form. For instance, for single-family residents, the applicant may be able or can skip sections that do not apply to their appeal. Lastly, we encourage communication between the AABs and stakeholders to discuss key status and identified issues on appeals and refund processes. For instance, in LA County, the property tax departments, which includes AAB, the assessor's office, auditor controller, and treasurer tax collector, meet with the CADA members on a quarterly basis to discuss appeal and refund matters. On agenda item 4, as previously shared during the last work group meeting, LA County uses various reports and analytics to monitor application trends and status, particularly for scheduling purposes. Due to the high volume of appeals received annually, we schedule our applications based on different parameters, such as region, property type, or even issues appealed on. We provide a listing of open applications to the assessor's office based on these groupings or categories. Then the assessor provides us with the list of applications that they are working on or in communication with the applicant or agent. This helps our team, AAB, identify the applications that are ready to move forward for scheduling. As shown on this page, this collaboration has been instrumental for LA County on the dramatic closure of our backlog appeals. As of September 2nd, 81% of the total open applications by the end of fiscal year 2021-22 have been closed, in addition to closing the current applications. With our scheduling strategies, it also helps us with the decrease in the hearing continuance rate as shown on the left side chart. Please note that starting January 2025, we have reduced the number of board hearings from 8 to 5 boards per day due to the immediate resource shift in response to the recent firestorm emergency. And as shown on the pie chart on your right, 34% of the hearing continuances were from status hearings or requests for status hearing. Last year, over 1,700 applications were scheduled for status hearings with a 39% closure rate at the hearing. We recommend for the BOE to conduct a study on how to further expedite the appeals resolution. For instance, establishing the guidelines for the board when granting continuance requests. Additionally, LA County supports a statewide portal with the state's funding support to cover for consultant fees to gather the county's system requirements and the costs for system development, implementation, support and maintenance, as well as future system upgrades and enhancement. Lastly, on the implementation of e-signatures, LA County AAB currently accepts e-signatures for online appeals filing using a two-part authentication process. Online filing also requires submission of the scanned or electronic agent authorization form. The applicant is also aware that the board or hearing clerk may request for the copy of the authorization form with the wet signature at the hearing. And that concludes my presentation. And again, thank you for this opportunity to speak before the board.
Thank you, and thank you for pinch hitting here and coming up ahead of Mr. Parker. I know you went through all the items that we're going to be discussing today. Really appreciate it. I had just a couple quick questions, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues in case they might have some questions. You know, in your presentation, you emphasized the importance of collecting data in all of these work group topics, such as finding bottlenecks in LA County's AAB process and identifying AAB members' training needs. Based on your experience, if the BOE were to look into helping counties with collecting data, for example, helping to identify the varying training needs of AAB members in different counties, what matrix would be most important for us to make note of?
So for the LA County, we started with the hiring of our business process improvement consultant back in 2022. And one of the identified issues or inefficiencies was, of course, the need to automate our manual processes to streamline the appeals process. One of the key metrics that LA County started tracking after those recommendations is identifying the status of each appeal and the property types of the open appeals so we can monitor our closure rate. Another key metrics that are important for AAB, for LA County, especially for our scheduling, is to be able to identify the hearing outcomes based on the number of scheduled agendas and the hearing outcomes of how many of these scheduled applications were closed, continued, and even postponed, and also the different reasons for continuances. We shared that information with, of course, our stakeholders, both the public and, of course, or the taxpayers advocates, and of course, the assessor's office for like an FYI for the reference. And we discuss also our status and our findings with county council so we can identify the areas or reasons for this continued applications or hearings. So those are the key metrics that are very valuable for LA County.
Thank you. And real quick, what you think the BOE can do to help facilitate the sharing of training information between counties?
One of the recommendation I presented earlier is the hosting or sponsoring of the BOE for annual conference, maybe, have all the AABs get together, the board members, and have guest speakers and from different counties, AAB members, county council AABs, and of course, some of the key experts or subject matter experts to provide trainings on best practices, appraisal concepts, etc. Because that had been very helpful for LA County, and it will benefit all the counties if there is a statewide training.
Thank you. With that, let me look. I see some hands here. We'll go ahead and start with our chair, Member Gaines.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. It was excellent, and I was surprised that you've got folks from other counties that are using your website as a resource, and I was just curious as to, are you able to figure out if those are county residents or are they staff from other counties that are looking for information with regards to AAB?
Unfortunately, sir, our data analytics, our website data analytics can only identify the location of the IP addresses of,
Okay.
when they start the website.
Okay, and then I guess question number 2 would be, could we have a link on our website that would link to LA counties for folks that might have questions about appeals?
I see our executive director coming up.
Good morning, Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Let me speak with our technology partner to see if that's possible. But I will say that we also have a video on assessment appeal process and common topics.
Okay, all right, I'm just
Okay.
thinking that there's so much breadth in terms of what LA County is providing that if we could be a conduit to help folks answer questions that might answer some of the kind of basic appeal questions that they still have to go through their own county, but it might just be educational in nature, helpful.
Yeah, we should be able to do a link of some sort.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Thanks. I know Vice Chair Lieber had some questions as well.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much for being here, Ms. Tran. And I had a question. You talked about the self-certification, and can you tell us a little bit more about how that works? And then also that LA County has monthly virtual workshops, and are those also open to the public, or is that within the AAB for LA County?
Just to clarify, you're asking about the public education seminar
Well, I
or the
think
train?
what I wrote down was monthly virtual workshop. So
Okay,
is that a monthly public education seminar?
yes, so there are two different seminars. We have the one open to the public, which is our virtual public education seminar, and also the training. We have trainings for our board members. That's why I asked for clarification. But yes, the monthly public education seminar is open to the public. There were a few instances where attendees from other states have attended, and I would say one or two from other counties. I just don't have the data with me as of the exact location or geographic, but it is open to the public.
And
And
you said 1 to 2 people from other counties have?
yes, have joined previously, looked or participated in our virtual hearing. I mean, a virtual public education seminar.
Okay,
So it is open to the public.
okay. And the self-certification?
Oh, yes. That is, Ms. Lieber, that is the State Board of Equalization's mandatory self-certification where they need to take the exam and pass it to be certified as an AAB board member.
And so you're providing your own training from within LA County for that?
We provide them the state, the AAB board manual includes both the state and local property tax rules and assessment appeals rules. And so they review the information provided by the state to be able to successfully complete the self-evaluation certification. And then to complement that onboarding training, we also allow them to observe and shadow during the hearing before they are scheduled to be a board panel. Once they are scheduled on the board panel, then we have the enhanced training or continuous education training for the board members, which includes our workshops where our board members collaborate and share their knowledge, experience, and expertise with each other. And we also have our mandatory quarterly training for legal guidance, interpretation that is led by our county counsel, Mr. Thomas Parker.
Okay, great. So I think we'll hear a little bit more about that from Mr. Parker. But basically, the piece of it that is specific to LA County would be the monthly training and the shadowing. Am I understanding that right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I think we have a quick question from our Deputy Controller, then we'll move on to our next speaker. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. I'll be very quick here. I'm very pleased about the backlog closure, almost at 81%, and now you've gotten backlogs down to about 5,848. Do you know how many of these backlogs have been 5, 10 years or longer?
I would say a good 25%, I would say. Those have,
At 5 years or
Right.
10 years?
I would say 5 to 10 years. And the reason being is 30%, 30 to 35% of our backlog appeals are in either litigation or just highly complex cases that have been often continued at the later date
Do you have
because
some,
of the complexity of the appeal.
any that are over 10, 15 years, maybe 20?
No, not 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Were we able to get Mr. Parker back on? Mr. Parker, are you available?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Mr. Vasquez.
We can hear you loud and
And
clear, so thank you for coming back. I think I'd mentioned to the folks, once again, that you're also from the county Board of Supervisors as well, LA County. Let me let you go ahead and give your little presentation, and I know we have some questions for you.
yes, sir, I wear two hats today, as you just related to. One is as needed, a CCBSA spokesperson, but I am also a spokesperson for LA County in particular. Touching on what just recently was raised by questions from your board a little bit. The topics that in the quarterly trainings that County Council provides training on are on topics requested by the Assessment Appeals Board. The Assessment Appeals Board in Los Angeles takes questions throughout each quarter from panel members and or clerks on particular areas of AAB appeal matters where a lot of questions have come up. AAB members don't feel as comfortable as they would like to when they are addressing those topics in their appeal hearings. And so they will communicate with Savannah Hartunians, my associate, and myself. Could you please present a training on topics X, Y, and Z? And they're going to vary, needless to say, given the variety of things we hear in Los Angeles. And so we will prepare legal trainings on the requested topics. For instance, the upcoming training, September 22nd, is we're going to be presenting on burden of proof, burden of production, and a presentation on the very recently decided California Supreme Court case, the Olympic and Georgia case, as to what the Cal Supreme Court decided in that litigation. And of course, answer any questions on those three topics. So that's an example, and those are all at the request of the AAB executive. In the past, other topics have included a presentation on intangibles and how to run a board meeting. What management control does an AAB panel chairperson have over the proceedings that they're hearing? Those are just some other examples among many. Regarding retention, recruitment and retention, I will say from what I have seen as counsel, the specialized provisions of Revenue and Taxation Code 1624.1 regarding former assessor employees and the expanded provisions of 1624.05C as in Charlie regarding what qualifications allow for someone to be considered for appointment have been exceedingly helpful with Los Angeles in getting additional applications which are qualified under state law. And we have successfully over the past 3 years expanded from, I believe, 30 some board members to 8 panels and 54 or so panel members. So the experience of Los Angeles with those two provisions has been exceedingly helpful to LA in expanding its AAB panel member pool. I would also offer that an LTA regarding clarification of existing law on the ability of one county to get the temporary services of another county's AAB members would be very helpful from a legal perspective. Rule 308.6 already exists and allows for that procedure where there are cases of conflict, as described in your state board rule. And there have been at least 2 occasions where Los Angeles has used those provisions. One was when an AAB board member was appealing their own assessment. The other was when a in-house counsel for the assessor's office was appealing the base year value assessed to his single family residence. We use 308.6, but I know there are other counties that are smaller, more rural counties in Mr. Gaines' jurisdiction that are having trouble getting a replacement AAB members. And I fully acknowledge as well that there are provisions already in state law for multi-county boards, but from my personal experience from talking to AAB councils, the counties have not, other counties have not been interested in utilizing that statutory scheme. So as I say, an LTA from the state board discussing their interpretation, your interpretation of existing state law on this question would be very helpful. And those are the points I would offer on item 2 of your agenda, Mr. Chair and board members. Thank you. I'll be glad to take any questions, of course.
Thank you, and I know you'll be available to add or to weigh in as we hear from other speakers on the other topics. But let me just start with one quick question, then I'll turn it over to my colleagues. The BOE has some AAB member training resources available, and the LA County has its own fully developed training program. From your experience in developing and conducting training in LA County, are there ways that the BOE can be more helpful in getting its training resources and programs out in front of the AAB members?
Well, I would echo the idea, the recommendation of Ms. Tran a few minutes ago regarding an annual SBE conference of AAB members, AAB staff, and AAB council. That would be one great way. I'm not a public information officer for the state board, and I've never fulfilled that function for anyone. I would suggest that the state board might talk to the PIOs who work for your board in particular, or the state of California, and see if they have ideas on how state board materials could be better known, as it were. And I would perhaps as well, counties could be requested to add state board materials to their county websites. That's another possible idea. I'm not a techie whiz, so I'm not going to offer any opinions on the technical aspects of that, but assuming that's possible, that would be another option, sir.
Thank you. And I see our Chair Gaines, I think, has a question.
Wait. Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Parker. And I was just curious on the LTA. I wanted to get clarification on what you're recommending Was that specific to multi-county ABBs?
No, sir. Let me be clear, and I apologize
AABs,
if I wasn't clear. It would be the multi-county AAB statutory scheme in the Rev and Tax Code depends upon 2 or more counties being interested in formally creating that multi-county AAB. What I'm hearing anecdotally from AAB councils, especially up north in your jurisdiction, sir, is that for whatever reason that I'm not privy to, county boards up there are not interested in forming formal multi-county AABs as state law allows. So the question becomes, when County X is short of AAB members because the relatively few folks who are interested and willing to do that function have decided to retire for whatever reason, how do they get their AAB hearings heard within the 1604 timeframe? And that's what I'm referring to with this LTA recommendation, sir, that there be an interpretation or clarification of existing state law, whether or not County A could call on County B to have a County B AAB member sit on a County A panel. Right now, you won't find any state law or any state board reg or any state board interpretive document that discusses whether or not that is possible under existing law. Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm wondering, just a question of clarification for me in terms of the BOE. Maybe the executive director could help me with this in terms of classes, opportunities to provide classes for AABs through the BOE.
Good morning, Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. On August 1st, we opened our classes up to all AAB members. We sent a letter to the association, the Clerks of the Board Association, asking them to share the various links of our classes and all of our technical classes. Plus, we included information on our website on basic informational sheets. So it is available to them, and we're waiting on them to register.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be great to monitor that and keep an eye on it, but I'm just curious as to, do we offer a class that would be specific for an AAB member?
We have our AA Assessment Appeal Board manual, which Ms. Tran referenced in her presentation, and it is a self-study course.
Okay.
The law provides that when you have a newly appointed AAB member, that member must attend training, must either do BOE's training or the county training. And it sounds like LA County has a combination of their training and our training. Regardless of which training they take, they must complete the certification test. And that's the test that Ms. Tran was talking about.
Okay. I'm just curious. Part of my concern is that you have the small counties, you're struggling to find people to serve on the AABs, and then you've got the training on top of it. So I'm trying to figure out a pathway that would be simpler for smaller counties, because if you're already having problems recruiting, then are you going to be able to then train also? I mean, if you can't even get members to serve, how are we going to breach that?
I think that's why
Yeah.
we've gone with the self-study, so that they can train at their own pace.
Okay. All right. Very good. And that's developed by the BOE?
That's developed by the BOE.
Okay. All right. So I guess maybe we need a little time to figure out how many folks are going to sign up for the classes that are
Right,
currently
I think we need to see how many sign up, some of these classes, correct me Dave if I'm wrong, they may be 40 hours. So I don't know their time commitment.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But these classes are in-person classes or virtual classes.
Okay,
And we
40
do have-
hours?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. David Young, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. We've actually offered our full catalog of training. You're able to sign up for full in-person 40 or 32-hour classes. Our online study options are available. We've opened up your ability to actually take our classes through our Sac State and through a community college. And we actually have self-study options too, where they can actually take written material, read it, and take our exams for that. So it's our whole catalog of training that's available to AAB members now.
Okay, I'm just concerned again about the hurdles.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty big hurdles to get over, and I'm wondering if there's some sort of abbreviated version that'd be simpler for a member in a small county
Yeah.
to achieve.
I share your concern. I actually believe our certification exam, by statute, you actually have a year to complete it.
Okay.
And it is self-paced. It's basically a guide through our own assessment appeals manual, and it has different chapters of content, and you actually take exams through the whole course. So you have a whole year to do so.
How many hours would it take for someone to go through that on a self-service basis?
On a self-service basis, I believe that if you were to dedicate yourself and sat down and do it, you can probably do it within a week. But you do have the option of taking it through the course of the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many hours a week if you did it in a week?
I'm sorry.
Is it truly 40?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you sat down, you can probably do it in 40 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you got a year to do it. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I know we have our next speaker, but we have a couple more questions. I know Vice Chair Lieber.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Young. The training for that, is that only for individuals who are already on an AAB, or they're contemplating going on an AAB, and then presumably they'd be interviewed at some level about, do you have any expertise or I mean, I know the categories that an individual could fit within, but is it open to people who want to try before they go on an AAB?
To be quite frank with you, most of the people that have availed themselves of it, they've already interviewed and are already functioning as an AAB member, and then they have to get a certification. We have yet to have anybody that is not on the board asked to take the class, and so we haven't actually answered that just yet. Right now, it is a self-paced, but we actually do have to go through and actually grade and correct the exam. So it's a little balance of what the benefit is to somebody who wants to do it and extra workload on staff. But right now, we have not had that situation appear just yet.
Okay. And a question for Mr. Parker. You talked about, say, County A has lost critical members of their AAB, and how can they avail themselves of help from another county, but maybe the Board of Supervisors doesn't wish to. So then what do the advocates do who have a case that's attempting to work its way through that county?
Well, ma'am, one option is to have the applicant and the assessor stipulate to a 2-person panel as opposed to a 3. The normal panel is, as I know your board knows, 3 persons, and every applicant has an absolute right to a 3-person panel. However, the parties can stipulate if they wish to do so. It's rare, but I'm not going to say it never happens, to a two-person panel. The thing to remember is that regardless of whether you have a 2 or 3-person panel, you have to have 2 votes in favor of a particular determination of value. So if you only have a 2-person panel, it's got to, both of those members have to agree on the answer. Whereas with a 3-person panel, you can have a dissenter on the final determination. But it's the bigger import of your question is a very important thing. And that's a problem that I know at least one county up north is dealing with. They are trying to meet the Section 1604 2-year deadlines, but they're having a heck of a time finding anybody to fill out a 3-person panel. And I've talked with the AAB council for that county. I will not name that county, except to say it is in Mr. Gaines' jurisdiction. And I did not have a good answer.
So that's one of 34, just to clarify.
Yes, I realize, sir, you have a lot of counties, but it's somewhat up north. I will say it's north of Sacramento County for what it's worth.
And so then if the BOE were to do an LTA to further inform assessors and by extension, county boards of SUPs about the ability to borrow members from another county, do you feel that they're sufficiently unaware of that the LTA would be helpful? Or, I mean, it would be awkward to say, you need to do this to move your work along, or we're going to have some kind of a shotgun wedding here.
Well, what I'm suggesting, Ms. Lieber, is what I will call your classic LTA format, where the royal you, the Board of Equalization, interprets existing law. And if the Board of Equalization and their lawyers concluded that County A could borrow somebody from County B to get a 3-person panel together to hear the appeals in County A, then I'm very sure that when the issue comes up, the AAB council in County A is either going to call me up and ask my thoughts, or they're going to do their research, including on the state board website, and they're going to see the LTA that your board has issued. So they will have an answer to the question.
Okay, thank you. And one more question, if I might. The requested trainings on various topics that you talked about, those sounded very in-depth and quite interesting. So are those open to AAB members from other counties, or is that just strictly within LA?
That's a little tricky, Ms. Lieber. For the most part, they are generic legal trainings, but there may be once in a while minor aspects of the training material that we prepare that is more attorney-client privilege, at least in Los Angeles. For instance, the Olympic and George case that we'll be briefing the AAB on September 22nd. Most of that is simply, this is what the Supreme Court said. Anyone could read the opinion and find out what the Supreme Court said. But there may be an element or two where we offer, Ms. Hartunians and myself, offer a little bit of attorney-client legal advice, or we get, or is also quite common, we will get questions from our AAB panel members that go to some degree into the attorney-client privilege realm. And so that's why I'm being a little cautious in answering to your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we have one last question. Is this of Mr. Parker, Mr. Schaefer? Can we hold that until we get the next speaker up? Appreciate it. Because I know we have Ann Moore, who's also online from San Diego, and I don't want to hold her up. Appreciate it. You could just hold your question here. Our next speaker is Ann Moore, the Assistant Clerk of the Board of Supervisors from the San Diego County. She's participated back in April and is appearing remotely today. Ms. Moore, thank you for your time and for your participation. And I understand that you'll be speaking on more than just one of these topics, so you'll be given a little bit more time. And really appreciate the fact that you're able to join us and stay with us for a little bit. With that in mind, let me have you go ahead and make your presentation, and then I'm sure we'll have some questions for you. Thank you for joining us.
And do you want me to touch on all the topics now or just recruitment and training?
You know what? Why don't we start with the first one?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good morning, honorable members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. In San Diego, we're fortunate to have a relatively large candidate pool, and I know that smaller counties are not so fortunate, but even so, recruitment is still a challenge. But the greater difficulty for us is retention and member preparedness. New members quickly realize the complexity of the quasi-judicial determinations that they're tasked with, such as those on evidentiary sufficiency or good cause, without the benefit of legal training. That pressure leads to turnover and uneven decision-making across the boards. We are fortunate to have strong support from County Council, and we do provide regular training, but board members continue to look for more. As we've heard, other counties like LA have developed recorded materials that ideally could be shared more broadly. The problem is that some of those programs reflect the unique practices and structures of the county that's created them. What's missing is a universal resource that any board member in any county can use and trust is applicable to them. And that's where I see the BOE playing a central role. While the LTAs in the Assessment Appeals Manual are useful, they're written in a more formal legal language and are not always a practical tool for local board members who don't have a legal background. To take one example, the concept of good cause is a term of art in the courts with defined elements, yet a board member appointed under the real estate broker qualification has no training in applying that standard. They are still expected to make legally defensible determinations that could be appealed to Superior Court. That's why San Diego strongly supports annual or recorded training modules developed and delivered at the state level, tailored for both attorney and non-attorney board members. One idea we believe would be particularly valuable is an annual case law briefing led by BOE attorneys. San Diego is fortunate to have annual case law updates from County Council, but many counties do not. And this is one resource that our board members utilize heavily. A statewide briefing would build confidence and consistency across boards, particularly on complex topics such as Prop 19 appeals. Offering on-demand modules and plain language guidance would allow members to revisit materials whenever needed, ensuring they're informed and confident in their decisions. Counties are doing their best to fill the gaps, but the absence of a consistent statewide approach leaves members unevenly prepared. So we would ask that the BOE take the lead in developing some statewide training in partnership with the counties and CCBSA. One effective vehicle for this would be updated letters to the assessor that incorporate these best practices in plain language. This collaboration would set a consistent foundation while respecting local circumstances, ensuring that every county, regardless of size or resources, has well-trained, confident board members. And I'll take questions on that.
With that, let me go ahead. I'll start with our chair, and then I know Member Schaefer had a question as well.
assessor's office participate. I think that's a good idea.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dave, if you have a quick question or answer for that?
Yes, I'm sorry. I did not hear the totality of your question.
I was inquiring as to the average attendance at these courses that we're offering. I saw 85 mentioned. I imagine it varies substantially, but would you know?
Yes, so the majority of our courses, whether it's in person or online, right now it's somewhere right around 40 participants per class. When it's remote, we may have a little bit more leeway in adding a couple more, but we find that anything much more than 40 tends to be a little bit harder for our staff to convey our thoughts to the attendees and for it to be a good learning experience. But on average, somewhere around 40.
Do they always get a representative of the assessor's office? I think that's important.
Most of our courses are, we do have some members of our own staff attend, but the majority of them are actually the assessors and their staff that are attending our courses. Yes.
Thank you. Chair Gaines, I believe, has a
Great.
question for
Yeah,
our
thank
speaker.
you. Yeah, I want to thank Ann Moore for her presentation, and I just wanted to see if maybe you could expand on simplifying the manual for AABs for members. Can you tell me, just dive a little deeper in terms of what you think should happen?
There are concepts in there, like I think good cause is a really good example. Good cause in the court system is something that every attorney understands. There's 5 elements that are generally the courts are look for, such as timeliness and whether it impacts the hearing at, that we're focused on. That's not something that your average real estate broker or retired assessor would know. And so when those board members are appointed, there are legal standards that they're being asked and looked to apply that they don't have experience or understanding. Frankly, even understanding that there is a legal term of art in the phrase good cause. And while we are fortunate here in San Diego that our county counsel is present in every hearing, I know that a lot of the smaller counties are lucky if county counsel is available by email, if at all, or if they have experience in assessment appeals. And I think that it would be really critical for those smaller counties to have more resources, more in-depth examples in plain language of, for example, what does good cause look like? What is not good cause? What are you looking for? What do you need to have on the record or in your minute orders? What do you need to mention, or how do you weigh good cause in plain language that somebody who does not have a legal background could understand?
Good, excellent. That's kind of what I've been thinking about too, and I'm sure other members here. But I'm wondering through Member Vasquez, who's leading this effort today, if that's something we could take a look at, getting input from different counties on what that manual should look like with a focus on the smaller counties. I think Vice Chair Lieber, we're kind of in the same boat in terms of, do we have, are we training folks in the right way, and what can the BOE do to help in that regard, especially for small counties? And then if I could, Ms. Moore, if you could tell me a little bit about the LTA suggestion. You mentioned, giving updates through LTAs with regards to AAB members. What would that look like?
Just currently, our LTAs are not always easy to understand for every board member. And when we search LTAs, there may be multiple LTAs that you can find that are either conflicting because one is newer and supersedes another one. And so the hope is that when we provide LTAs to our members, that they could be in plain language that is easier for them to understand as well.
Okay, and that raises another question in terms of if we have an updated LTA, are we referencing the the old LTA that has been updated, just for clarity?
Yes, usually when we issue an LTA that supersedes a prior LTA, we will actually make note on that new LTA, and then we will go back and annotate the old LTA and say this section has been superseded, or if that old LTA is no longer applicable, we will make
Okay.
note that that LTA has
Okay.
been, in
And-
total, has been superseded.
And do you think we could take a look at using more plain language with respect to AAB members specifically? Because they're not they're not trained appraisers, you know,
No.
we've got members of the public that are
Yeah, as-
volunteering and helping
yeah.
out, so.
As a matter of practice, we try as hard as possible to convey sometimes very difficult appraisal, assessment, and other legal concepts in as plain language as possible. Our goal is always to make it clear and concise. If we can make it clear and concise and in plain language and reaches the broadest audience, we absolutely will do so.
That's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And to get back to your question real quick, Member Chair Gaines, I hope, you know, we could take advantage of these large counties like San Diego and LA that could share and be a resource for especially some of the smaller rural counties.
Sure, that's great. Thank you.
With that, seeing no other questions, I just had a quick one for you, Ms. Moore. First of all, thank you for your presentation, and I know you'll be with us a little longer, but kind of touching on what the chair just brought up is on the AB member training programs. As I look at LA has developed quite a bit on this because it's a large county with resources, and San Diego's kind of in the same situation. What are some of the things that you think are helpful, that could be helpful to some of the AAB members?
I definitely think if we can provide training on some of the more complex assessment types, when we start talking about like real property and even our boards who receive annual training by our county council, and then we also provide some lunch and learns for our board members during the spring. Even when they get an aviation or a boat appeal, there's always questions because these are not the vanilla appeals that are more easily understood. And I think that if there were some resources, I think videos that people could watch real time on some of those more complex topics, I think that would be just absolutely critical for some of the smaller counties that don't have the availability of county council that us larger counties have.
Thank you. And I know we'll be hearing from you a little bit later again. Really appreciate the fact that you're able to stay with us and join us today. With that, I notice, at least I'm looking on the schedule here, we're scheduled for a break, but I was wondering are we able to roll to just get to this next one? Because I know this next speaker is here in person, I believe. Is that a possibility? Appreciate it. Our next speaker is our Deputy Counsel, Assessment Appeals Board from Santa Clara, and I believe it's Javed Mavandi? Is he? Oh, here he is, okay. Who is in person and will also participated back in April and provided several recommendations that we're considering today. Thank you for coming back and joining us today. And I understand that you wish to present on actually more than one of the topics today. So with that, let me just, we'll give you full allotment so you can get into the other issues as well before we take our lunch break.
Thank you, Member Vasquez. Good morning, Chairperson Gaines, honorable members of the Board of Equalization. Bhavita Madhvani, Deputy County Counsel for the County of Santa Clara. I'm one of the attorneys in our county who advise the county's Assessment Appeals Board. Thank you for inviting Santa Clara County to participate in the second round of this work group. We're excited to continue partnering with the board as it considers best practices for assessment appeals boards across the state. As Member Vasquez indicated, I am hoping to address agenda topics 2, 3, and 4 at this time, if that's acceptable to the board. Regarding agenda topic 2 for AAB member recruitment and training, first for member recruitment, in Santa Clara County, we have 4 3-member AAB panels and 2 value hearing officers. So that's 14 positions we attempt to fill with qualified individuals, which is a difficult task when their expertise should ideally include things like valuations ranging from residential to complex commercial, agriculture, possessory interests, real property. And on top of that, Santa Clara County is a very diverse county. And one of the things we are very passionate about is ensuring that AABs reflect the composition of the community that they serve. And so our first recommendation on this topic is that the board should use its resources and influence to encourage counties to maintain a pool of AAB members that reflect the composition of the communities that they serve, including those who may not traditionally seek appointment to county boards. So examples of such efforts could include outreach to affinity groups for attorneys, appraisers, CPAs, real estate agents, educating their members about not just the opportunity of serving on an AAB, but also what are the benefits of serving on these local boards and how does it serve their communities. I think a lot of folks within these occupations may not have even heard of these opportunities, let alone understand the benefits that can come to them or their community by participating. Regarding member training, the types of cases AABs hear vary widely, as we've heard, but there are some consistencies across the state in categories of properties. So things like residential, commercial, vacant land, agriculture, real property, aviation, boating. Currently, the Board of Equalization website section for training for AAB members includes the Assessment Appeals Manual, as you've heard, and a set of self-study review questions. Then there's a separate section of the Board of Equalization website regarding assessor materials, which contains a real myriad of information. But if you just click on the section for AAB members, it has the more limited subset. And so I think in line with other recommendations the board has heard today, we recommend that the board should create training specifically for AAB members to inform their legal and value decisions. And so that could be looking at each of these various types of common property types and then highlighting the key factors to consider. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an in-depth 20 to 40-hour course. I think as Chairperson Gaines alluded to, you have to have a real balance between wanting to recruit folks and then minimizing the burden that you're placing on them to do the job in a way that enables them to feel confident and do it in a way that is legally sufficient. So you could have expansive trainings like self-study courses. You could also do things like quick reference guides or tip sheets that list the common factors that board members should consider, something they can pull out even during a hearing to say, here's vacant land in front of me, here are the things I need to consider, like zoning, topography, are utilities available on site, is there a view on this plot of land, is it subdividable? Just some quick things to make members feel confident in their decisions so they're not out there alone or feeling like they don't have the key factors in front of them. Regarding the third agenda item of AAB applications and applicant resources, regarding the application itself, I think this is one of the biggest issues we see in Santa Clara County that causes delays and confusion. When applications are filled out incorrectly, applicants might mark the wrong box on the appeal. That leads to a lot of time-intensive efforts by both the clerk of the board and the applicant to remedy the application. It often leads to delays. It often leads to a board consideration hearing to approve or deny the amendment request of the application. Applicants sometimes might have to fill out a waiver to get that done, and that extends the whole timeline of the appeal. And so, and in line with other recommendations you've heard, our recommendation is that the board simplify the assessment appeal application itself to make it easier, particularly for self-represented applicants, to communicate the reason for their appeal. Regarding applicant resources, this is one that we have particularly passionate about. In Santa Clara County, over half of our residents speak a language other than English in their home, predominantly Spanish, Mandarin, Chinese, and Vietnamese. And so our fourth recommendation is that the board should provide assessment appeal resources in language other than English. So for example, this morning, the board has heard the appeals assessment manual alluded to, I think a dozen times by now, it is only available in English. And that has been thrown out as the #1 resource for AAB members. It is technically written, so I wouldn't expect a lay member of the public to read it, but it does seem that if we want to provide a fair, open opportunity for all members of the public to understand the main training tool that the decider of their case is going to hear, that should be available to folks in a way that they can understand. Similarly, the assessment appeal application itself is currently in English. Publication 29, which the board issues, which is an overview of California property tax, is only currently available in English. There are certain really helpful resources that are in other languages. So for example, publication 30, which concerns residential property tax assessment appeals. That's currently available in English, Mandarin, Korean, Spanish, and Vietnamese. But even here, there's inequity because the English version was updated in 2020 on the board's website, and the other languages are from 2015. So even applicants who are getting those in other languages aren't benefiting from the most recent information that the board is providing. Two other ones I'll highlight for the board, publications 800 and 801, which concern Prop 19 information and tip sheets for transfers between parents and children, grandparents and grandchildren. Those are available in English, Spanish, and some of them are in Mandarin. But again, the English versions were updated just this year in 2025. The other languages are from a few years ago. So even where we are able to provide the language accessibility, they're not getting the most recent information as the English language speakers. Finally, on the fourth agenda topic of best practices for AAB scheduling and processes. Here, the clerk of the board and the assessor's office each play a vital role in scheduling assessment appeal hearings. And I think it would be incumbent on the board, as it has done, and I would ask it to continue doing, to issue guidance to both of those departments to schedule hearings as soon as they are ready, including having regular systems level meetings about challenges to scheduling communications between the departments that can really help clear backlogs. I also think in an LTA, the board could provide some flexibility in scheduling. For example, the board could allow the clerks of the board to consider the assessor's needs or the needs of the assessor's office when setting hearings. That would allow the assessor's office to make sure they're completely prepared for hearings, of course, not entirely on the assessor's schedule, but taking it as one factor of their scheduling needs. Thank you so much. I'm happy to receive any questions from the board.
Thank you. Thank you for especially breaking out some of these real good recommendations some I know you had shared before with us. And I just had a couple of quick questions, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. Regarding the applicant's resources, one point which stands out to me is the fact that due to their roles on the appeal process, county clerks, for example, AAB staff, and assessors are constrained in the help which they can provide to taxpayers. To the extent of that correct completion of the appeal application reduces administrative burdens, what be the most helpful thing that the BOE can do to fulfill some of those gaps?
I think the simplification of the assessment appeal application itself, if that were filled out correctly more often than not, that would lead to not only less work individually for county employees, clerks of the board, and assessor's office. It would lead to less hearings in front of AABs for what are called board considerations to consider application amendments. It would lead to a less delay in appeals resolving as well. So either maybe a combination of simplifying the application and some portion of education of how to correctly complete applications. Similar to Los Angeles County, we have a video tutorial on our website, though it's nice to see our residents are utilizing the Los Angeles resources as well. But some type of education, especially to self-represented applicants, of how is what are they trying to appeal and what's the proper way to communicate that on the application. The application is written almost in a way that follows the legalese. So if it's a Prop 19 appeal, you have to conceptualize what Prop 19 is and then translate that to the appropriate box on the form. For example, if you want to challenge let's say you didn't receive a parent-child exception, and you want to challenge that on the assessment appeal application, you ideally would probably be checking two boxes. You'd be checking that no change of ownership occurred, and if a change of ownership did occur, you probably also want to challenge what the base year value of that change of ownership is. And so a homeowner who inherits a property, let's say from their deceased parent, if they only check one of those boxes, they are leaving some amount of their rights on the table, or will have to request an amendment once they understand they didn't properly fill out the application, which will delay resolution of their case.
No, I appreciate it. And I didn't realize, you brought up in your presentation that even though we're translating some of this material, some of it is not as current as it should be. For example, I guess as it gets revised, these handbooks, some of the translation is still years behind. But moving forward, I also understand that the taxpayers are often referred to the BOE Publication 29, which explains the appeal process and which is available in several languages from the BOE websites. But moving forward, I think you touched on it a little bit, some of the languages and some of the cases that are being offered, but only in certain publications. And I guess at the end of the day, from your experience, it sounds like you're getting probably calls where people are a little bit confused or don't really have the latest information and are not probably being serviced in the best and most adequate way.
Yeah, thank you, Member Vasquez. And this goes back to the kind of burden on the county staff itself, right? So if you receive a call from someone as clerk of the board staff who's processing these applications, inquiring about, I want to do an assessment appeal, but I don't understand it in this language. Can you help me figure it out? And their native language might be Spanish or Vietnamese. If it's one of the languages that are predominantly spoken in our county, we usually are able to accommodate that. If it's at a hearing where we need to provide language services, we have an interpretation service we can do. But if it's a kind of a cold call from a taxpayer, that proves to be a little more challenging, or you might need to reschedule them at a time where you can get a language line through. And then it also raises the question of, at what point do county staff cross the line between providing helpful information to the public and actually starting to advise an applicant on their application and what they're appealing? So you do have to walk those lines.
Appreciate it. The Deputy Controller, I believe, has a question for you.
Thank you. Really, really nice presentation. When we talk about the translations, when you get to the point of an AAB hearing and it's scheduled, are you provided a right to, does the county provide a translator for the applicant, or does that applicant have to bring a translator at their own cost?
Our county will provide the translator, will provide an interpreter, a court-certified interpreter for the applicant at the hearing itself.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Gaines, I believe, has questions.
I wanted to thank you for your suggestions, and I love this idea about a tip sheet on each type of property to help members of an AAB. And then, it looks like we're going to work on the language issue and get that resolved. I had a question, though, because especially out of Santa Clara, with all the software that's available for translation, is that something that counties are looking at in terms of communication through software from different languages back and forth with constituents?
Thank you, Chairperson Gaines. I think, yes, artificial intelligence provides the capability to hopefully streamline a lot of the language services. I think the problem is anytime you do things at a county level, it has to be really thought out in terms of what it means, not just for privacy and security, but also how you contract vendors, what vendors do you contract. So I think ideally, if we're looking in terms of a long-term horizon of years, I think that's a really great solution. I think if you're looking at short-term timelines of what can we do today, I think technologies are still in a phase where many counties might not feel comfortable engaging those softwares at this level.
Is that an accuracy issue currently with software? Is it not?
It could be
precise,
accuracy. I apologize for speaking over you. It could be accuracy. It could also be data privacy issues. With regards to assessment appeals, generally most information is public, so that spectrum might not be as nuanced as it is in other areas. But then from the county perspective, there might also be issues engaging something for just one specific need rather than a broader need. So for example, engaging a service provider just for translation services for assessment appeals rather than a broader scope of work. Can you even find a service provider who will do it on such a limited basis? So for example, in our county, we receive, on an estimate, don't hold me to the number, I think something like 5,500, 6,000 appeal applications last year. Of those, some subset probably required a language translation. Does that amount make it fiscally feasible to engage a service provider for that need and then run what is essentially almost a pilot version of an AI translation? And I think when you start drilling it down to doing it on such a small level, I think that might not hit the right economy of scale, especially in the current fiscal environment for trying that out.
Yes.
But I think on a state level or on a longer term trajectory, when those softwares are at a place where we feel more comfortable with them, I think that could be a really great solution.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're good. Really appreciate the fact that you're able to come and join us again. And I know you'll be participating as we move forward, as we finalize these recommendations. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
With that, we have, I believe, online our next speaker, which is the chair of the Assessment Appeals Subcommittee for the California Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, CCBSA, the Assistant Chief Deputy Clerk for the Ventura Board County. And it's Brendan Vahakis, I believe.
Yes, correct.
Go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Do you want me to wait for your staff to put the screen up or just proceed?
Here it comes.
All right, looks like we're good to go. Good morning, honorable members of the State Board of Equalization, BOE staff, and my fellow work group participants. My name is Brendan Vlahakis. I work for the County of Ventura, overseeing the Clerk of the Board's assessment appeal processes. However, today I'm representing the California Clerk of the Board of Supervisors Association, or CCBSA for short, and our 56 member counties and over 140 individual members, some of which are joining us here today. Last night, we submitted a letter outlining our organization's perspectives on the topics that will be discussed today. I do deeply apologize for the tardy submission. Our intent was to provide our letter in advance so that your board and other work group participants would have the chance to review, but that did not work out as planned. We are ready and willing to provide feedback on proposals and answer any questions that your board has. As we have addressed each agenda item, I will provide a brief summary of our positions as detailed in our letter. Our perspectives cover the viewpoint from a broad array of counties and represent the viewpoints of counties large and small. I would note in your audience today, we have Melissa Kitts. She's in the burgundy jacket a few rows back. She will be on standby to answer any questions from the small county assessment appeals board perspective, but she does not intend to speak. And then we have Danielle Bonshu on the public comment telephone line. She represents the perspective of a county where the Board of Supervisors serves as the local Board of Equalization. I know we had a request to try to find a county where the Board of Supervisors served as a Board of Equalization, so we were able to get her on the public comment line today if you have any specific questions to that. With that, for agenda item number 2, best practices for AAB member recruitment and training. CCBSA recommends that the Board of Equalization develop statewide training and guidance for assessment appeals board members that is accessible to both attorney and non-attorney members, supplemented by plain language resources and annual case law briefings. In addition, a clarifying letter to assessors on cross-county appointment authority is requested. These measures will promote consistency, fairness, and defensibility of AAB decisions, while also strengthening recruitment and retention by giving members the confidence and tools to succeed in their roles. Our specific recommendations outlined include development of BOE-delivered training modules, plain language guidance on implementation of complex rules, clarification to provide a broad general framework of what constitutes good cause and what does not, provisions of annual case law briefing training, issuing an LTA to clarify cross-county appointment authority for board members, and broadening the categories of qualified professions for AAB membership to expand the Los Angeles County only provisions to the rest of the state. These measures would be particularly beneficial for small and medium-sized counties where the boards often lack consistent access to legal expertise and rely heavily on part-time members. Statewide training and guidance would enhance fairness, reduce unnecessary delays, and strengthen the defensibility of AAB decisions in Superior Court. Benefits that also support retention by giving members the confidence, clarity, and resources they need to succeed in their roles. That completes my overview for agenda item number 2. I will be available for the rest of the day to address each agenda item as you get to it, unless you'd like me to address them all now.
We'll go ahead and go with the Q&A, and then I know you're going to be available a little later. And like you mentioned in your opening remarks, I understand we do have, I think, in the audience here with us today, Melissa Kitts, I believe, is available. I see her hand waving, who's from the clerk, the Board of Supervisors of Butte County here in person. I will start with the first question, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues because I think there's some questions as well. As we move, as I'm thinking about this, my first question happens to be around the AAB members residing out of the county. You mentioned that your county council previously looked into this question. Would the BOE guidance on legality on best practice for appointing out-of-county AAB members be helpful to your county or other counties in the CCBSA?
Yes, so as mentioned by Mr. Parker earlier, that there's just a lack of a guidebook on how counties can rely on other counties as a resource. And so, and interpretation of the existing rules for board member appointment varies county by county depending on that county's legal counsel's interpretation. And so we think a general BOE, LTA on what options counties have for board members, whether on a temporary or permanent basis, would be helpful to those smaller counties. For example, some of our smaller counties would love to temporarily use board members from the neighboring county, but the guidelines aren't clear on if they are for sure allowed to do that, if they need to be formally appointed to their county's local board, or if residency is actually required and they're not allowed to use members from other counties. And so just the BOE summarizing in a LTA what the options for these smaller counties are would be a helpful resource so that they don't have to do the research or rely on varying legal opinions from different county councils.
Thank you. I think our chair, Member Gaines, has some questions. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, and I just want to key into this LTA clarification because I think it's important, right? So we do have statute, but we need additional clarity, and it was brought up earlier by Mr. Parker, and so I kind of wanted to address this issue that in the event that you're short of 3 members for a board, that we would have clarification through an LTA to bring on another member from another county. And what are your thoughts? Is that what you're looking for too?
Yes,
sort
exactly.
of clarity? Yeah. Okay. You mentioned a few other things about the legality in that area. Are there specific questions that we could help you with, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think as Mr. Vasquez mentioned, my county council's opinion was that their interpretation is residency isn't required. Some county, because it's not expressly stated, residency required, yes, no, some counties are hesitant. And so just being able to rely on a BOE opinion that either confirms or denies the residency requirement would be helpful for counties to point to that aren't certain. So if the BOE says, yes, county residency is not a requirement, then the counties who are uncertain would be able to point to that and say, okay, we're safe to rely on members that reside in other counties.
Okay, that's great. So has there been conversations with the BOE on these issues prior to the hearing today? I mean, are we already making progress in answering the questions that you brought up today in the hearing?
We did initially bring up the suggestion of cross-county appointment authority in April. Aside from our suggestions today, there hasn't been much discussion. It was suggested that we look into utilizing the multi-jurisdictional assessment appeals board process. And we outline in our letters just briefly, the reason that it doesn't work for a lot of counties is there's a lot of kind of startup costs, and the counties that are having recruitment problems are small counties with very few board members. And so for them, it doesn't make sense to establish a multi-county board where then you have to determine who's going to staff that. How are we going to share applications across counties? How are we going to fund that? And so the multi-jurisdictional is very barrier heavy to implementation. And so we're looking for a simpler option that just allows counties to stay in their, silo of, hey, I'm the clerk, I'm managing this board, but have resources to just the board members themselves and not a shared board with another county.
Okay. But they also have an obligation to hear these appeals, right? I mean, that's the other side of it. And isn't that a legal obligation?
Yeah, and so the flip side to that is if you cannot constitute a full AAB locally, you could also have your board of supervisors serve as a local board of equalization. And as I mentioned, we have Danielle Banshu on the public comment line if you want to get her opinion on that. She's currently in that model, and when you get a board of supervisors taking on that responsibility, you're taking the experts out. There's no then guarantee they have any expertise in assessment or real estate or law, and they have to switch their hat from being a constituent representative to instead being a neutral party. And so it's a very difficult line to walk when you have to default to the board of supervisors serving as the local board of equalization, because it's just not the same level as having qualified appraisers review every appeal. So that is the default for counties that can't get enough members, is to go to the board of supervisors instead.
Okay, but they must be comfortable with that, because I think the alternative would be spending more money.
I don't know if our membership talked about that extensively. I guess it's a balance of, yes, we counties would prefer to have access to highly qualified individuals to resolve the case, as would we think most of the applicants coming through, over a board of supervisors hearing the cases. But when faced with that decision of, do we draw out cases to make sure we have experts versus do we get them heard quickly to make sure to meet the timelines, it kind of becomes not the ideal situation. So we're looking for a more ideal situation to give taxpayers and applicants the insurance that they're having the highest qualified individuals hear their cases.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can provide more clarity as a member of the BOE, and provide simplification for rural counties. So we'll do what we can on our end. But thank you for your suggestions, and I'm glad that the communication continues, right, between the CBBSA and the BOE.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I think we're good, and I believe you'll be around and available a little bit later.
That's correct.
And with that, we have my county, actually, the Honorable Jeff Prang is, I believe, is online, and he has staff members that'll be presenting remotely. Yeah, I had mentioned that we just go early lunch. Are we good? Okay. So first of all, on this one here, the LA County, we have several members here. We have the chief appraiser, looks like the principal appraiser, and the technology manager too. I believe they're all online with us today. With that, I'd like to see if, I'm not sure who's going to start.
Member
Is it
Vas-
Matthew Herrera?
Yeah, Member Vasquez, this is
Yes.
Ms. Taylor. It doesn't appear that Mr. Prang's staff are online, so maybe we'll have to move on to another set of speakers.
Oh, okay. Or you want to start our lunch? What do we do our lunch now? So, well, let me ask more of a logistical question. Since we're at noon now, do you want us to take our lunch break now? Because we didn't take a break. Sure. And then we can regroup at 1. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, that would be fine.
And then let's see if we can get Jeff Prangen in his office to log in right after lunch. Right now, I have 12:01, so we would be back at 1:01. Okay? Oh, Mr. Schaefer, you have a question before you break?
Do we have jurisdiction to have, say, a 45-minute lunch? I always find there's a little extra 15 minutes.
I'm looking at staff and I'm seeing no.
No, I didn't win any votes.
Well, we skipped the break, so I think we should at least give them an hour.
All right, thank you.
All right, so it's 12:02, we'll be back at 1:02.
You seem to be enjoying yourself.